Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with a shadow work reading for Aries season 2025. I kind of missed the one for Pisces season. Sorry about it. A gal was busy and it is what it is. So I appreciate you guys checking out my videos, and I hope that these readings resonate and help you kind of work through the energies. So yeah, we still have eclipse energy going on. We also have Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde. I think a lot of us are just kind of feeling the momentum and shifts as Neptune moves into Aries. We're starting to kind of get a little bit of this clarity, so to speak, in different areas. But I think that shadow work is relevant and significant. So let's see what we have to kind of pay attention to. I also have all my oracle decks over here. So let's see. First card we have is a 10 of coins. This one. Then we have the Conqueror of coins reversed. Then I have Justice reversed. And we have the Three of Cups. And then finally, we have the Ace of Coins. Lots of coins. Interesting. Okay, now we're going to use a card out of the Earth and Bone Oracle. Let's see what we have here. We have Flow. Trying to put these little guys up. Maybe I'll speed up this part because I feel like I pull very slowly. All right, now we have our Dark Mirror cards. So let's see what we have here for us today as a collective. We have Masquerade. Like everything back out of the way. And then we have our Dark Magic Oracle. So we have Solace. And then finally, I'm going to take a card out of the Making Magic Oracle by Priestess Moon, because I feel like they just really vibe with these shadow work readings. All right, let's see. What do we need to know as a collective? So first we have is the festival. And then we have the triple spiral. We're going to put that one there. Okay. So let's get into it and see what these cards have to say today and what we need to be kind of listening to during Aries season. And I know Aries season has kind of like been going, right? I know. Let me move this over a little bit so we have everything in frame. Okay. So hopefully everything is looking good. And maybe one of these days I'll buy an actual camera. So let's get into it. So we have the very first card is going to be the 10 of coins or the 10 of pentacles. I think that since this is kind of kicking off everything, is that maybe we've been really focused on our material, on our physical existence, maybe even some of like our behaviors, kind of trying to look at what we've been working towards, what our hard work has kind of culminated us up to, basically, like what has been the building blocks and the foundations upon which we have been creating the life that we currently are experiencing or the things that we have done. So I know with Neptune moving into Aries, it's been in Pisces for the last 14 years. We had Saturn also move into Aries. So we're getting a lot of this kind of energy that makes us essentially kind of like reevaluate a lot of the things that we've been going back and forth on, the things that maybe we've been experiencing, the things that maybe we've been, kind of living through. And I think with having some of these larger, slower moving planets kind of shifting signs, which a lot of them are going to all move signs this year, everything is almost like shifting, not just energetically, but almost like at a generational level. If we want to look at it that way, it's like things are completely going to be in a different, um, not just like modality and element, but they're going to be like really pushing us to reevaluate everything that we've done. And I think that's something that tends to happen during any kind of water sign season, which we just had Pisces season. So I think a lot of us have been a little bit more reflective. I think the eclipses also can kind of bring a lot of this element of kind of looking at like, well, what am I doing? Where is this headed? Where is this leading me up to? So maybe a lot of us are in this kind of reflective moment of trying to figure out like, have I been doing what I need to do? Have I been focusing on the things that I need to be doing at this current moment? Am I paying attention to the lessons that I've learned upon, this current, time period? Am I, aware of what I've been working towards? What seeds have I planted and nurtured and grown? What sort of things are nourishing me at this current time? So the coins or pentacles can really talk about the physical self. They can talk about, our behaviors. They can talk about our career, our money, our finances, our physical existence, our homes. So I think a lot of us are maybe reflecting on what these things really mean to us in different ways, and what is a culmination of everything that we've done in order to grow these things. So there may be a hyper focus, so to speak, to look at, what am I doing? What am I creating? Where is this leading me? And what do I need to do in order for this to be something that is continually, moving in the direction of what I want? Because a lot of us have different expectations and desires as to what we want to put a lot of our work into. And I think the Ten of Coins here is just kind of saying like, okay, maybe we're really focusing on what this means for me as an individual. Now, next up, we have the Conqueror of Coins, which I'm assuming is going to be the King of Coins in this deck, but this is reversed. So I think as we're moving out of really understanding what we've been focusing on, maybe even reprioritizing what that means for us and like kind of seeing where our hard work has led us, the Conqueror of Coins can feel a little bit like maybe there's some unfinished business, or maybe we feel like we're becoming a little bit uncomfortable with the life that maybe we've created, the things that we've surrounded ourselves with, some of the things that maybe we prioritize that are maybe not really in alignment with, what we're wanting and what we are discovering about ourselves. When I think of the King of Pentacles or the King of Coins, I think of him as someone that maybe is a little bit more methodical, more strategic, not very exciting in some ways. So I think with this, it's almost hearkening to the lessons of the Queen of Pentacles, which maybe is kind of saying like, are we comfortable with the life that we've built? Are we nurturing something that is developing in the ways that we want it to? Are we focusing on essentially kind of co-creating something that feels like home for us? Maybe we just feel like we don't really have that yet. And so it makes it hard for us to kind of feel really established and like our foundation makes sense. So I think with these cards that there is a little bit of this sense of reevaluating what we are prioritizing, what that means for us. Maybe we're wanting to kind of feel a little bit more like having a better handle on the physical things that we have in our lives. So this may be a great time to maybe look at, what all do you have in your home? Maybe it's a great time to kind of start decluttering some things, or maybe saying, okay, I don't feel comfortable in my own home, so maybe I need to let some stuff go so that I can feel a little bit more like the king. I can kind of feel more comfortable with my space. There may be also some things that we're having to kind of reevaluate when it comes to our financial situation. I think a lot of us are in this kind of vibe of like trying to rebudget, maybe even trying to be a little bit more aware of like, what does this mean? How can I, move into this energy? What can I do with these things? And so a lot of us are maybe feeling like we're wanting to get a better handle on certain things, especially if we've been a little bit kind of like checked out as far as like what's been going on. So I know for a lot of people buying things, going out and treating yourself, so to speak, is like a little cultural thing of like, oh, whenever things aren't going very good, it's like I have to treat myself or whatever. I know that's something I've been really wanting to do the last few days. Like, I love coffee, and so I finally went and got myself a little coffee yesterday because I was like, I need to treat myself because I need to do my taxes, that sort of thing, where sometimes the treats aren't really aligned with what we need to be really focusing on, if that makes sense. And so I think this King of Coins here is kind of saying, are we doing things for ourselves that actually make sense for us in the long term? When I think of Pentacles, again, it's very slow moving kind of energy. So it is very much about like, what am I establishing for myself? What kind of routines are here? What sort of strategies are in place for me to really find that, the benefits of what I'm doing? And so maybe right now we're feeling a little bit out, not to say out of control, but maybe we feel like things aren't very much like in the direction of what we really truly desire, if that makes sense. Now, next to that, we have Justice, our only major card here. We do have Justice reversed. And so it's interesting because we are going to have a full moon in Libra during Aries season. And so we are kind of given this energy of really looking at, our connections, our relationships, how we are showing up in these ways and kind of highlighting these things in relation to who we are as individuals. And so I think Justice reversed here is kind of saying that maybe something is just not really in balance. Maybe we haven't really been as impartial a judge as we need to at this current moment. Maybe there's something that is holding us back because we haven't really allowed ourselves to move into the balance required for that to really be established for us. So there may be a current moment right now where things are just not really aligning the way that they're supposed to. Maybe there's a lack of balance. Maybe there's something going on here that is kind of saying we need to kind of cut away from anything that is holding us back. Now, if we think of Justice in relation to the previous card, which is the Wheel of Fortune, we have this kind of energy of having to just kind of go with the flow. And maybe right now we're too stuck in that kind of vibe where we're just kind of like, I don't really know, like, I'm just going to kind of go with the flow and I don't really know like where this is headed and things of that nature. I can't really redefine what that means or what's important to me, or maybe we're just afraid to commit in some ways, or maybe we feel like we haven't really committed correctly in the past. And so right now we're kind of doubting our ability to be able to choose for ourselves what it is that we want. And the thing with Aries season is, an Aries, energy in general, is that it is very much about what I am. And so this is very much kind of showing us like we have to choose who we are, what we are, how we're going to be, regardless of what that may look like to anyone on the outside. And so I think with Justice reversed here, we're getting a little bit of this like non-committal energy, and we're just wanting to say, well, things didn't really turn out the way that I thought they were going to, or the way that I had anticipated. So I'm just going to kind of go with the flow and just let it be what it needs to be. And I think that this is a reminder that maybe we need to pay attention to how we're showing up, what we're showing up into, what we're committing to, being a little bit more aware that maybe at this point in time, we need to kind of be a little bit more choosy, so to speak, and be more direct as far as like what we're choosing for ourselves and what we're committing to. When I think of Justice, I think that it can be a little bit more impartial in some ways. And so maybe we need to, not to say emotionally disconnect, but maybe emotionally disengage so that we can really truly see things as they are and not be caught up in our own emotionality or be stuck in our own kind of like, well, I thought this was how it was going to be. And I think it's interesting because I also got the flow card, and I was like, this kind of harkens back to that lesson of the Wheel of Fortune, which is about just kind of flowing with things as they are, really understanding that the wheel is constantly turning and we really have no control over it. But Justice kind of puts a little bit of that power back into your hands. It's kind of telling you like, hey, as much as things have just kind of gone the way that they're going to go, you still get to choose how you're reacting to things. You still get to choose what you're doing with this. So as far as like a shadow work reading, I think a lot of this is kind of saying like maybe we've forgotten how truly powerful we are and how we can redirect this energy in ways that maybe essentially more in flow for us, that maybe we're forgetting some of this because so much of our lives can feel out of our hands, that this is kind of saying like, hey, let's kind of step back into empowering ourselves a little bit. Now, underneath we have the Three of Cups, which this is a card of like celebration, expansion, kind of sharing the love, coming together. I think that this can also be a reminder that maybe not everything is as we see it initially. Maybe there's some people around us that may not always celebrate us in the ways that we want to be celebrated. There may be people that may be discovering a lack of fidelity in some areas of their lives. And I'm only mentioning this because this is a shadow work reading, right? So I feel like this can kind of bring up a little bit of this kind of energy of maybe seeing people for who they truly are, or maybe kind of seeing that not everyone is going to have the same level of honesty that you may have within those relationships and connections. And so as much as those things can hurt and as much as those things can feel like a betrayal of sorts, this is also kind of telling you to look at what you have left and how can you celebrate what is here and who is here and how you can essentially share the things that make you happy and bring you joy. And this is also a very intuitive, creative sort of energy that's kind of inviting you to say, like, when is the last time you had a little bit of fun? When is the last time you kind of celebrated with the people that you know really see you as you are and want to see you succeed? So I think the Three of Cups is kind of here, especially with saying like, we've been working really hard. We've been like so much in our heads about things. We've been, you know, really forgetting what it's like to just really, truly enjoy our lives, that it makes it hard for us to say, you know, what it is that we want to do next. And I think a lot of us are kind of in this energy where we feel like we're maybe being a little bit more cautious about, you know, where we're spending our energy or where we're kind of investing ourselves or what sort of energy we're tuning into and plugging into. So I think the Three of Cups is kind of saying like, hey, you know, you need to really be aware of where you are being celebrated and where this energy is really trying to bring you into the fold and what it is that you really want. So pay attention to this energy. Don't forget that it's okay that even as things are challenging and difficult and as things, you know, feel like they may be crumbling around us in different ways, we still need to take some time out to just come together and really essentially be grateful for the blessings and the things that have been falling into place, or the things that we do have left when everything feels like it's still falling away. Now, finally, we have the Ace of Coins. It's interesting to have so many coins in this reading because I feel like it's very much saying like, this is an opportunity for us to plant the seed. Now, this can be a metaphorical seed. This can be a physical seed. I mean, we're here at the beginning of spring. Unless you live like in Colorado, like I do, where we don't usually plant anything until after May, after Memorial Day, actually, because we usually have snow until then. So I think the Ace of Coins is kind of an invitation and kind of saying, all right, we need to look at like what we're doing and how we're showing up. As much as we may feel like things are not coming together the way that we had intended, or things are just not really shaping up the way that we had essentially thought things were going to go, this is about planting those seeds. This is about really getting out there into our physical lives, whether it's our community, whether it's our connections that we're building, our physical selves. Maybe this is a time to kind of plant the seed of better health, plant the seed of, you know, changing our behaviors, planting the seed of, you know, really looking at our physical existence and trying to reconnect in some ways. And really looking at like, what doors is this going to open for me? Whether that's an internal, you know, kind of like shift and change, or whether that is like having the realization that maybe where you're at has not really been feeding you in some ways. And so I think this Ace of Coins, especially with that Three of Cups, is that it's almost like saying, like, we need to just kind of do what humans do. We are, constantly going with the flow, having to learn how to adapt and overcome. And the way that we'll do that is with community and with, really planting the seeds for what it is that we want moving forward, so that we can really say, this is what I am, this is what I want, and this is how I'm going to be. So I think the shadow work reading is really, especially with these tarot cards, are kind of saying, like, hey, we need to kind of get back into, not to say like the old ways, but maybe we need to get back into what community looks like for us. How can we come together and really sow the seeds of prosperity for everyone together, versus like this very individualistic kind of way of being. And sowing the seeds doesn't mean like physical. I mean, it can, but I think it could just be sowing the seeds of friendship, sowing the seeds of community, sowing the seeds of partnership and development, and just, having that sense of, getting to know the people around you, or building something around you that feels like that is supportive for you. All right. So for the oracle cards that we have here, we have flow. So this is about recovery, moving on, finding peace. I think that this is very much like what I was talking about with the tarot cards, where again, we are in this mood of wanting to kind of reestablish what we require and reestablish what is necessary and needed for us as individuals. So I think that this is kind of saying, like, hey, we're ready to kind of move on. We're ready to find peace within ourselves. We're ready to kind of rediscover what it means to really heal in different ways. So I think what a lot of us have been realizing, especially with having Venus in retrograde, is that we're reevaluating what our relationships and connections mean. We're reevaluating our connection with money. We're looking back at like what it is that we value in so many different ways. And that's kind of the lesson from a retrograde, especially with Venus. And so it's really kind of saying, okay, we're learning to float. And so we're having to recover certain things. We're maybe having some different elements of ourselves where we're like, oh, I didn't realize this at the time, but now I'm seeing this a little bit more clearly. So it is this kind of energy that's saying, all right, we're ready to kind of find peace. We're ready to kind of move on. And so we just need to flow with it. We need to not be so resistant to the changes that are coming and the changes that are trying to kind of establish themselves in our lives. Now, for our dark mirror card, we have Masquerade. And I think that this is kind of saying, like, maybe we've been not quite so honest with ourselves. Maybe we've not been so not quite so honest with the people around us. Maybe we feel like we've been wearing a mask. Maybe we feel like we're having to just go through the motions and show up in different ways that maybe don't feel super authentic to who we are. And so I think that this energy is kind of saying, like, the mask needs to come off. We're done kind of appeasing everybody else. We're done trying to make everybody else happy. Maybe we feel like it's time for us to really show up as we are. And maybe we feel like not everyone is being quite as honest with us as we would like for them to be. And I think a lot of us have put so much societal pressure on ourselves to really show up as our authentic, true, being. And so it makes it so challenging whenever you want to take that mask off and you want to show up, because there's a lot of fear. And with this being a shadow work meeting, I think it's kind of saying, like, we need to kind of take that mask off. And the masquerade is maybe a reminder that we've just been going through the motions. We've just been kind of showing up in the ways that maybe other people expect us. And so it's not allowing us to really be, cutting away from things that are no longer in alignment with who we are. It's not allowing us to really celebrate in ways that feel authentic for us to plant seeds for what it is that we want. And so I think that's why we also have this dark magic card, where it's kind of saying solace, is that maybe we just feel very lonely, and we just feel like we're the only ones seeing the things that are wrong, or seeing the things that are not in alignment with what we would like society to be doing or within our lives. And so I think that this is almost saying, like, how can we comfort one another? How can we show up again for community and connect and not feel like I've been doing all of this work by myself for so long that it's hard for me to find ways to celebrate or find people that will celebrate with me, because they're just seeing the things that are coming together and they're not seeing all of the things that I've had to go through, all of the loneliness, all of the hard work and dedication, and, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears essentially in order for me to be where I'm at. And so I think the solace card is kind of saying, like, how can we open ourselves up and not to say like become vulnerable, but maybe share with others in a sense so that it doesn't feel so lonely and it doesn't feel like you are the only one that is seeing things as they are or seeing things as they're going at this present moment. So I think once we kind of like work out some of these little kinks, we have the festival, which is about creating an energetic blueprint for fantastic events. And I think that this is kind of saying, like, we need to kind of be more celebratory about things, whether that is a festival within ourselves, whether that's a festival with like other people that we love connecting with and kind of saying, hey, this is what I really love. This is what I really need. This is how I can show up in this energy. I think the festival is kind of saying, like, how can we come together in ways that maybe we've forgotten are significant to us? And we need to celebrate. We need to either just celebrate with the people that we love or people that we know, or we need to go to spaces where people are celebrating so that we're not feeling stuck in this kind of like lonely energy or feeling like we can't really be ourselves. And a masquerade is also some sort of festival, right? But it's almost saying like people are wearing their masks and maybe it's a little bit harder to kind of see who people really are. So maybe right now it can feel very much like that. Like some people are not really showing their true selves, or maybe there's parts of ourselves that we haven't really been showing our true selves. And so I think with the festival, it's almost saying like it's time for us to take the masks off and to kind of come together and not be stuck in this. Now, finally, I have the triple spiral card, which is about listening to divine wisdom and joyfully learning life's lessons. I think that this is a beautiful way to end the shadow work reading, because I think it is really saying like everything is connected. Everything that we go through, all of the challenges and all of the difficulties that we're experiencing on a collective level, on a molecular level, basically on an individual level, it's all part of the divine wisdom that we need to kind of process and go through. And I'm not saying that we deserve it, but sometimes we just have to kind of go through different things that may feel very challenging or can feel very disheartening in different ways. But it is really saying, what are we doing with this energy? Are we joyfully learning life's lessons and doing something with it, kind of metabolizing this in a different way so that it becomes something else, so that we can really say, okay, that happened to me. I'm going to do something with this energy. I'm going to share with others how to change this and how to be a little bit different with this energy and not be kind of stuck, feeling like, you know, this is all just on me and I don't really know what to do with it. So I think overall for Aries season, we're just being reminded to really build the life that we want. If it isn't something that's currently in existence and something that we're currently doing, and to really find ways to come together, to celebrate and find the people that really see us as we are, and really, you know, essentially, when is the last time we had a little bit of fun? How can we play a little bit more? And how can we show up in this energy more authentically? So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what you guys think of this shadow work reading. Let me know if you like shadow work readings. I will see you in the next one. So please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.